Hello there, welcome back to Tilnet, and I hope today's going well. I'm Grand Admiral, and today I'm doing a quick review of so far this LEGO Style 2021 Advent Calendar. Because we've got through the first third of the Advent Calendar, I thought, I'd do a quick recap on what it is, how I think it's going, and how it compares up to some previous years. I'll do this for each third, so there'll be another one on day 16, and then obviously there'll be on day 24 where we'll have the full overview, which will pretty much account for it. But let's get right into it. So, quick recap on what we got on each day. Day 1, we had the Raider Crest. Day 2, we had the Bounty Hunter ship over here. Day 3, we had the Stormtrooper minifigure. I haven't named them yet. Tell me in the comments down below what you want to call this one. Day 4, we had the E-Web. Day 5, we had the targets over here. Day 6, I believe, was the Trooper Transport. Day 7 was the Blue Speeder. And Day 8 was our good friend, the Tusken Raider. Anakin would be very upset. But so far, personally, I think the build to minifigure ratio is pretty good. I like how it's sticking with that Mandalorian theme. I like how it's going through a bit of the phases. It's got, some vehicles, we've got some ships, so for kids they can face off. We've got some speeders, we've got some land vehicles. I think it all ties quite nicely well in. A quick reference from where all these are from. This is from Navarro, episode 4, season 2. Razor Crest throughout it. I cannot remember exactly, but I believe it's the Prisoner. So that was season 1, episode 5, I believe. I think it might be that one. And then this, I believe, was from the season premiere, actually, episode 1 of season 1. Now, we also have some extra things. So we have the, play feature ones with the E-Web, and we have the targets. I guess technically you could include the minifigures as this, but, I think it's quite nice as you have. It's like the Stormtrooper, he fires off the E-Web, and he shoots down some targets. I've just moved the Tusken Raider there. And I feel that's quite nice just for, especially some younger people that are going to do this. I feel like, I actually did hit the Tusken Raider. Ricocheted off the target. So I definitely feel like, that's quite a nice feature. And I believe later on there is another Time Blaster, but we'll get into that when we get there in the Advent Calendar. Now, some of the positives, as I said, I like the build to kind of minifigure ratio. I think it's quite nice at the moment with, these 2 minifigures, and then we're getting 4 vehicles, and then we get these playthings. These play features, as I guess you could probably call them, but not exactly the exact terminology for them. And I think that's quite nice. I think it works quite well. It's very nicely done. I genuinely think it's quite nicely done. And also I feel that it's now leading into Tatooine because we have the Tusken Raider, so I think that'll start to show us some more Tatooine-inspired builds. Now, as we do know on the box art, we do know there's the Slave 1, also known as the Fire Spray. We know the Tusken Raider has his own kind of gun. We know that there's a Tusken Raider weapon stand. So I do believe these are going to come in a little bit sooner now. I think we're branching into that category. Some of the downsides I have with this is it's not necessarily the builds are difficult or they're challenging. They are quite big and they're quite bulky. But the first one is the amount of extra pieces, spare pieces you have is a lot. And I'll just move the camera to show you some of them. And that's all the spare pieces we've accumulated over this first third. And we still got 2/3 of this left to go. And that has me just a little bit worried of, there's a lot of extra pieces, there's a lot of excess. We don't really need them. I understand that, it's a good point having them, but I just feel like now you have to find another place to group all your, spare pieces. I have a whole bag filled with spares. I keep separate things and I divide them up so I know which ones are spares and which one aren't. But it generally does feel a little bit overly done on spare pieces. Another problem I have with this is something that I find I have this problem every year, and I don't want to make this video a whole, me ranting on about, oh yes, this bad and this bad. Because mostly I do quite like this Advent Calendar. I like how it's a themed Mandalorian, and I think that's quite nice. I definitely think 2022, so next year, Attack of the Clones or Clone Wars, I'd really like to see that, but I don't know. See, I'm a massive Clone Wars fan, so love it. My whole childhood. But, yeah, now obviously we're, amazing to be able to cover it and stuff. But obviously, let's hope for that next year. But I feel like the building instructions, as always, is something that I always think about whenever I'm doing these, and now having to get up for work and everything. With those instructions, it makes it a little bit more difficult. The reason why is, as we know, they're not really very detailed. They're just very small. And if I open up, say, his number 2, so that's not good. I mean, that's a decent example. So number 2, we just lift the camera up. It's probably not very well done, but, my apologies for the lighting. Yeah, you can't really see that very well. But it isn't the clearest. And is there a good one? Number 5 was that was Targets. Number 8 was the Tuscan. Number 7. Oh yeah, down here. And that was the Speeder. That was a little bit more tricky. I feel like Razor Crest, that had quite a difficult one. And it's not that these builds are any difficult. It's more just the instructions are slightly more difficult. They're very small, they're very concise, and the problem that I get with that is it makes it a lot more difficult to build. These are very simple builds that you can probably build really quickly. I mean, when you look at this, in all fairness, it is really just, you know, a cross-section with some stuff sticking on the outside. It's comprised of the snot prick that then brings it out, and it's just one long kind of bit there. They're not really very challenging, especially when we look at the Land Speeder. It's just pretty much just a bunch of plates. But the instructions make it a little bit more difficult, and, you know, I feel like this is something that we keep on having. And I know we don't want to print out any paper instructions, I understand that, because, you know, it's not good for the environment. So I definitely think that you need to kind of think of a solution to this. If I was going to work for you and I've been doing this, which I obviously don't, I think what you could do is a QR code, which would then take you to a page where it shows you a much more detailed building instruction, which shows you through the phases. So, you know, it goes step 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this is probably a little bit more difficult, but I feel like it's just that little bit easier than looking at a small square space and trying to go, is that right? I definitely just think that's that little bit more easier for people, and I just think that works better. Like, for some of these, they're not complicated, as I say, but, you know, on a small piece of paper, you know, it's a really small square, something like this can take a lot longer than it should do. Especially if you're waking up for, I don't know, school or work. You don't really have a giant amount of time to be able to build something like this, or the Land Speeder, or anything. So I feel like, you know, it's that little bit more difficult. And I will bring the lightsaber just to get some extra light. Oh, that worked way better than I thought. So, you know, it's like, you know, it's not going to work as well as you think if, you know, you're going for something like this, this, and this. And now if I obviously show you that door, which I try and keep as open as possible. As you can see, it's quite a small section. Building something from that, it might not be the easiest for some people. So I just feel like, you know, it's those small details to make it easier for others that really just, you know, help other people and just really make LEGO just that little bit better. So, other things I want to point out is I do like the minifigures in this. The Tuscan Raider, always a nice addition. Nice printing, nice head mould, as I said in the separate video covering the Tuscan Raider. And the same with the Stormtrooper. It's the new one, meaning it has that dual molded helmet. I like how we're now getting into different face prints for the Stormtroopers. I think that's quite nice, really showing us actually they're not the clones, and I definitely think that's nice. I think, as I said, my favourite part of this is definitely this display feature. I think it's great. I definitely think it brings this extra thing to the advent calendar. I really want to see these continue next year and the years later. But I think, you know, it's a solid start. As I said, my only flaws with this one are the extra pieces and the usual instructions. But anyway, guys, let me down below in the comments, well, tell me down below in the comments what you actually think so far of this advent calendar. How do you think it's going? Comment down below what you would like to see next. As I said, I am doing a lightsaber and I'm doing a weaponry kind of playlist soon. The first 2 videos, which will be on the Electro Staff and the lightsaber, will be out this Saturday. And yeah, I'll see you then, and may the Force be with you.